So our next session is called Reporting from the Ground, and for that I'd like to invite my colleague Tanuja. Tanuja did her master's from the Indian Institute of Science, and then she did a stint at IBM Research, and then she got the startup bug. She founded a startup which was working in the sustainable energy space, and we met, at MSR, through that startup, and we decided that it's much better for her to come and help us, incubate and drive startups achieve success. So now she runs the SCAI program that Sriram mentioned, and Tanuja will tell you more about the next session and its detail. Welcome, Tanuja.
Thanks, Satish, and thank you, Sriram and Sanjay, for setting the context for today's event. As Sanjay rightly pointed, the role of the ecosystem alongside the technology in looking at societal impact in India. In this current session, we would start with a session on reporting from the ground. So we are really honored to have many passionate people amongst us in the audience today who are working on building different types of technologies and working on the initiatives for addressing societal challenges in different domains. So in this particular session, what we would do is we would have 7 short talks. 3 of these are existing collaborations within MSR, and 4 are the external initiatives. So this is an opportunity for all of us to leverage each other's experiences, learnings, and understand the goals of these existing initiatives. We will follow this session with more open conversations and roundtables. So we will keep these talks as 7 short talks and get ahead with the understanding the realities from the ground. So we'll start this session by the talk from Manu Chopra. Manu is working on tackling extreme poverty by providing dignified digital work to rural Indians. He is currently CEO of Karya Inc., which is the spin-off and work started at MSR India. In the last 3 years, his work moved over 10,000 rural Indians out of extreme poverty. He graduated from Stanford University in 2017, where he co-founded CS Plus Social Good, Stanford's first student group focused on technology and impact. Manu was also research fellow at MSR India, so MSR India is not new to him. So I'll invite Manu to start his talk on Karya.
So, hi, my name is Manu. It's so exciting to be here. I love Microsoft Research India. They're amazing. And I'm happy to introduce Karya to you guys. So Karya is the world's first data cooperative moving rural Indians out of extreme poverty. Our mission is very simple. We want to bring dignified digital work to rural Indians and help them move out of poverty in a sustainable manner. So this photo is from one of our field visits. Vivek is right there at the top on the team's call. And that's Vivek and me. And we were in Soda, one of the first villages that we did a Karya pilot in, right? And we at Karya basically tackle 2 fundamental issues. The first issue we tackle is the issue of economically disadvantaged communities. So post-COVID, 75% of rural Indians now live on less than 33 rupees per day. It takes an average low-income Indian 7 generations to reach India's mean income of 1,12,000 rupees. That is 7 generations to make India's mean income of $1,500. A Karya worker can reach that milestone in 3 months. So that is the first issue we are trying to tackle, to bring Indians to the point of the mean income in the country. At the same time, the second issue we are tackling is the issue of siloed technology innovations. So there are very few data sets in Indic languages. Similar discrepancies exist in image, speech, video, and text. Just for context, let's say for Marathi, a language spoken by 40 million native speakers in India, you need around 1 million hours to develop very good ASR models, and less than 100 hours were available when we started the project, right? The goal behind Karya thus is to build the world's first ethical data company. We pay the highest wages in the global data industry. We pay an average of $4 an hour, which is 20 times the Indian local minimum wage. Our work is for everyone. It is low skilled, it's flexible, it does not require internet connectivity, and our workers are compensated each time their data is used. They own their data forever. So we think of ourselves, or like to think of ourselves, as Amul for data, and the idea is building a data cooperative. Our services to clients are we give them local language speech data sets, document digitization, we build image corpuses, we do image annotation, labeling, your basic data stuff. And over the last 12 months, we are officially 12 months old, which is super exciting. We have now done over 20 million digital tasks have been done on the Karya platform. We have now given over 3 crores in worker payments in the last 12 months, and we work with 20,000 individuals. Our backstory is for 2017 to 2021, we ran Project Karya as a research project right here at MSR. The last time I spoke here was at Lab Sabha, I think 3 years ago. And June of 2021, with MSR's help and support, we spun out Karya as a social enterprise. Over the last year, we have built a robust mobile crowdsourcing platform. We now have partners in 100 districts across 20 Indian states. We've conducted multiple studies, and we're on track. These are all the places that we work in across India, so it's very exciting, and these are the different types of tasks we have given to people. And basic crowdsourcing, it's very simple. We take big tasks, we split them into small micro tasks, and we give that to workers. And then on the back end, we assimilate the task and share that with clients, right? So 3 fundamental things about our model is, once again, we are a data cooperative. All our technological innovations are open source, including the Karya platform. And we are fundamentally research-based. Even right now, as a social enterprise, we are still engaging with MIT, JPAL, Stanford, IIT Bombay, and Microsoft Research, most excitingly, to do lots of research. And this is our amazing team. So over the last year, we have built an amazing team. Vivek right here again, and these are all the people that we work with. And over the last years, we've worked with some incredible partners and clients. I think some of the most exciting work has been, again, with MSR, with the Indian Army, with Litex, with organizations like GIZ and JPAL, and that has led to some interesting things for us. And the goal, once again, is to empower disadvantaged communities and vulnerable individuals through dignified digital work, right? I'm gonna quickly talk about the fundamental tenets of inclusion and impact within Karya. So our workers are, 95% of our workers are from marginalized communities, 60% happen to be women, and 20% are above the age of 60. That is important to us to make sure that the benefits of digital work are given to a diverse demographic. Financially, our workers are paid the highest wages. For context, we pay 80 times the next highest paying data company, and we're able to do that because of technological innovations we have made as a company. At the same time, we offer our clients the same low cost and high quality that they deserve. We have also built lots of technologies. With Saikat at MSR, we have built the Karya public data license, which protects data exploitation from happening. We believe the data industry is a very exploitative industry, and there is space for a worker-first collective to come in. That's what Karya hopes to be. And fundamentally, we want to advocate for ethical data, right? Much like there has been an ethical, sustainable fashion movement, I think there needs to be a sustainable data movement that talks about how much money we are paying our data workers who build the tools that we all use every second, including the captioning tool on the Teams call. So everything needs to be done ethically. So our vision by 2030 is to be at the forefront of evangelizing ethical data practices through financially empowering millions of rural Indians. And by 2030, we want Karya to enable economic opportunities for 100 million rural Indians. So that's what we hope to do, and we hope to have your support in doing that. We build an ethical data collective, we're building community-first technologies, and a big effort within the company now is post-Karya, what social mobility opportunities can we enable for our villagers, right? So after we are right now able to increase their annual income by 40% in a month, what after that? We don't want Karya to be a full-time job, we want it to be supplementary income. So how are we able to take that supplementary income to enable future economic opportunities for them and future social opportunities for them is a big goal. And I'll end with a quote from Ramola Didi, one of our workers, where she said, I really like this kind of work because there's no physical pain or hard work involved. Because we are villagers, most of the work we get requires heavy lifting, but now I can work from home, it matches my routine. It's really nice that we're teaching computers how to speak Marwari. Marwari is a great language, plus it's our language. If everyone is hearing my voice and it is helping spread my language, what can be better than this? What can be a bigger motivation than this? So that for us is fundamental in what we are trying to do. And we look forward to your support and lots of collaboration. And I'm eternally grateful to MSR for everything they've done for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Manu.
So Manu, can you share actually, so Karya was a research project in a lab and then you took it out to the community. So maybe give one example of an assumption that you made that actually worked out and an assumption that you made that was just wrong and you had to rethink after you started the company.
So I think that thanks to how well MSR is linked with the real world, right? The assumptions we made early on were always made in consultation with incredible people on the ground and incredible industry partners, right? So working with Kalika, working with Indrani, working with Bill, we had a very solid sense of what works. And I think we were also entering the lab at a point where Everwell was already a big success. Digital Green was already a big success. So I think we were very lucky to enter the lab at a place where those things work very well. I think there hasn't really been an assumption that hasn't worked out. Vivek, is there something you're thinking? I think we did not.
That is actually,
Yes.
it's the work I think that, Kalika and Co are driving right now in terms of, and the work that we're doing with, Rani and MIT on understanding actually how well women or what are the challenges for women to participate in such a platform, right? I think, in research studies, all feedback from women would be very positive, right? Hey, this is great work. And Manu gave an example here, right? But what we are also seeing is, it's not without challenges, and we are conducting more research. I think that's where the research aspect of it comes in. Yeah. Continuing to do research to ensure, the platform and the company stays true to its goals. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good example, right? Because I think all our pilots before doing this properly were like, I think the biggest pilot was 100 people, right? So 20,000 people is a different game, and now we are promising 100,000 people by end of next year. So definitely challenges there. But I think we're very lucky, again, because of MSR, just very rooted in reality and knew very early on that again, like Kintaro said famously, right? Technology amplifies existing intent, not a substitute for it. So that really helped for us, helped us a lot, yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. So maybe I missed it. Can you give one or two examples of the tasks that these women do? Because
Yes.
I just didn't get any sense of that.
No, that's definitely valid, because very quick. Let me find a screenshot. I think we had it somewhere here. Right here. So this would be an example of a task that Karya workers would do, which would be, say, something like reading a sentence in Marathi. That's a sentence in Marathi. So you read it in your mind, then you click that button right here, then you read it out loud, and you listen to the recording, make sure you have said it properly, and you go to the next sentence. And for reading that one sentence, you would get paid 1 rupees. And on average, our workers can read 300 to 400 sentences an hour. So they would get paid 300 to 400 rupees an hour. They might be like, what's the point of reading these sentences? What does it do? So it helps companies like Microsoft, our clients, build ASR models, which can then build services like a Cortana in Marathi, right? So globally, I think what's interesting to mention is globally, $40 billion is spent every year collecting data, right? Collecting data for AI ML models. So that's speech annotation, image, video, text. And most of this, of course, doesn't come to rural India, right? So we want to bring that, at least say a big chunk of that pile to rural India and do it ethically in a manner that these people own the data sets, right? Because if they own the data set, let's say they recorded their voice in 2018, in 2020, they're still getting paid for it, right? Because that same data just got sold again. So when you detach labor and income, you enable economic opportunities, right? Yeah.
Thanks, Manu. And no, this is really exciting. We are super excited about the journey and progress of Karya and looking forward to more impact. We are very confident about it. So our next talk is by A R Rajesh. Rajesh has spent last 2 decades innovating for the future of blue and grey collar work in India. His efforts are firmly rooted in the belief that this future must lie in the intersection of work, worker, and workplace. Rajesh is the co-founder and CEO of Labournet. So over to you for...
I didn't find in your slide workforce development, so maybe this may be a good idea to open the eyes to the India's labor ecosystem. So maybe when you go back today home, your spouse tells you saying that, hey, the fridge is not working. There's a problem. What will you do? Maybe you'll open up the app, maybe put a customer complaint to, or request for a AC refrigeration guy from an urban company. Or you look at the fridge and say, hey, this is a customer service number out here, let me call up that and fix up a request for a service technician. And a person walks in next day, maybe at 10 o'clock. Somebody walks in, Manoj or somebody walks in and knocks the door at 10 o'clock the next day. And he introduces saying that, I'm Manoj and I'm coming in from a particular urban company or a particular brand of your refrigerator. Now, let's look at that particular person. A 50-year-old guy comes and knocks at your door, and he comes in, he opens the fridge, he finds lights not there, he checks it, he looks at he's not able to figure out whether it's a condenser problem or it's a blade problem. He looks at it for some time, then he says, I have to call the senior guy. He goes out, spends a couple of hours out, comes back with the senior guy, checks out. He finds the condenser and the blade missing, spends a few hours of inspection, goes out, gets the blade or gets the light changed, he would have spent the full day. And you would pay him 2,000 rupees, or to the technician or to the brand or the urban company, you would have paid 2,000 rupees. And finally, Manoj gets a call at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. Okay, it's his wife. He'll reply saying that, "Aaj ka kaam ho gaya, mujhe 500 rupees mil gaya or 500 rupees mil gaya, I'm coming back home." Now, that's Manoj. What does a 500 rupees or $2 to $3 a day make sense in a life of Manoj? And that's the story of maybe 70% of our labor force. If you trace back that story, maybe at the age of 30, or before he came to your door, maybe he was working and an assistant to an electrical contractor. Then he became a contractor to come in at that stage. Maybe at the age of 20, he was working in some shop, trying to figure out how to repair fridges or how to repair electricity, how to repair, getting an alignment of how the electrical environment is. Or maybe at the age of 16, he had no clue what the world of electricity is going to be. Maybe he was just working in a restaurant as a part-time cleaning guy who just happens to work in a shop, electrical shop, and then he got in. And at the age of 14, he just dropped out of the school. This represents the journey of Manoj till the age of 50 to earn 500 rupees a day. And this story means that he doesn't have the dignity of labor. He doesn't get real wages to keep himself above poverty. Now, the same story, the enormity of the problem comes in from the fact that out of the 1.3 billion people and out of the 500 million people whom we call blue and gray collar job, 70% of the population is in that particular line. What we all take pride is the small 50 million odd people who has got tuned to this monthly wage, beginning of the month getting salary, but this set of people who are paid per task gets only $2 to $3 a day. If we trace back, this invisible worker, his problem was not access to work. He was getting access to work at regular points of time. And his problem was he was not able to access well-paying work. And that may be because of his problem of capability and other things. So his problem was not unemployment in the country, it was underemployment. And we believe from Labournet or from the system, underemployment is the modern day slavery which we are facing. Now, if you trace back and see how should have been the journey of Manoj to take up to the 2,000 rupees a day. In the beginning, he goes into the school, he drops out of the school, fine, and he considers, but he gets introduced to a learning and earning environment so that he is not kept out of work. And today, the world of apprenticeship is becoming big, internship is becoming big, and companies are encouraging people to take these kind of informal sector workers as apprentices, because government is today paying a subsidy of 2,500 for every apprentice you take. So any enterprise is interested to take. That means awareness needs to be brought in to these kind of enterprises. He gets as an apprentice, he continues his studies. How do you create a micro-learning environment for him to study? How can we create a credit system for him? His learning continuously can give him a diploma or a degree continuously. That is, earn while you learn, but he can't afford to come to a university, come to a degree college, etc., because a poor can't afford to be outside the working environment. So how do we create an environment for him to get into higher learning? Then, once he finishes, he studies, he finishes to the diploma, how do we ensure, he gets access to, now that he has got into formal education, he has got a credit history, he gets access to credit. That means now he can buy tools, equipments, etc. Because he is into the formal employment stage, he has got an ESI, he gets access to healthcare. Finally, he realizes that working is not the way out. I have acquired a lot of skill sets over a period of time. I can do micro gigs. From a Chamrajpet, he moves to Mysore, and from a Mysore, he finds a lot of world of opportunities in Bangalore. He leaves his contract job, comes down to Mysore, works maybe into a dealer of a Samsung or get registered into various gig platforms, and he continuously gets money because now he has power tools with him. Now he has very set of people who can go to the work, etc. Now look at the same Manoj who walks into your house, and let's replay that scenario. He comes, knocks at 10 o'clock, morning 10 a.m. He comes in, he looks at your fridge, he finds, okay, it's a problem here, okay, there is light gone, etc. And he's able to diagnose saying that there is a problem with the condenser. Yeah, he can't be multi-skilled and he can't maybe repair a condenser. He uses his phone, dials the digital video to the brand from the subject matter expert of the brand, say Kelvinator or whoever it is. He interacts, shows them the things. He interacts. That guy says, repair like this, etc. He finds where the fault is. He goes out, gets the material. He finishes the task in a couple of hours. So in 2 hours, he completes the work. You pay him 2,000, he gets 500 rupees. The phone call comes in soon after he finishes the task. Maybe from another brand, maybe from Samsung. And says, he thinks it's his wife's call. It's not his wife's call. It's another gig work job. He gets that job, completes again. So in a day, he's able to complete 4 tasks. Because of his speed, because of his access to new technologies, which is new tools, because of his access to financing, because of his access to healthcare, because of his access to housing, because of access to various skills and education, he is now able to earn a 2,000 rupee journey. Now, similarly, the people who give work to Manoj, they have various problems. In the initial years when Manoj, I'm just quickly moving on, when Manoj is being looked at, it's a small, say, Vandana Enterprises, who is in Chamrajpet. They're just trying to find out who can come and work as a helper, gets hold of Manoj because of attrition problem. After that, another company, say Veena Enterprises, who is Samsung's authorized thing, finds a whole lot of problem with productivity of the people. So they need experienced people working for them. They just get hold of Manoj again through various interviewing process. There are a lot of problems with absenteeism. So as the things go, they want productivity output. They want to convert the fixed cost, which is a manpower fixed cost, as variable cost. So they move into gig kind of a thing and they take it on. So this is the way the role of enterprises and other things is, and we believe technology can ensure and give a single interface for capability, financing, tools, market linkage for Manoj, at the same time for the local enterprises, workforce, and the payroll benefit. And that's what Labournet offers. And we hope to impact around 10 million odd people in the next 48 months, and out of which 1 million people getting 1,000 rupees per day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rajesh. So next talk is by Sonal Agarwal. She is a co-founder and CEO of Lakshya, a fintech company based in India to improve financial health of the underserved by providing flexible, customized financial products about savings, insurance, and digital literacy. Over to you, Sonal.
Thank you. Hello all. Thank you MSR for invitation. So as we all know, financial inclusion in India has already made strides. Like now 90% of people have bank account, 450 million people have access to smartphones, and that gives them already an access to financial products. And India's stack has built rails of UPI, eKYC, which also eases the financial transaction. But what we see is that still the majority of the, especially informal workers, they lack access to the usage of the financial products, especially around savings, investment, insurance, is missing. And one of the key reasons is that these products require repeated usage. If there's no repeated usage, the benefits just fizzle out. And right now, majority of the workers are in informal sector, and most of the savings, investment, insurance products are right now offered as bundled on platforms. Like if someone is working in Amazon, urban company, such things, and or government interventions like ESI or PPF. But those who are in informal sector misses out on these products, and right now they are at most bundled and given along with credit. So, and it's evident at macro level, like less than 5% have any pension plan and only 1% people take health insurance voluntarily. Like whatever health insurance that we see is usually employer driven or government benefits, but less than 1% people take voluntarily. So at Lakshya, we thought we will solve the problem for low-income segment by offering suitable, simple financial products around savings and insurance. So in savings, we started with liquid mutual funds and digital gold, where people can save as low as ₹1 for their short-term goals and building assets. And in the insurance, we started with hospital cash insurance, which starts from 150 rupees per person per year. So the idea of hospital cash insurance was mainly to give them some tool to substitute for the wage loss that happens during the period of hospitalization. Because right now, Ayushman Bharat or the ESI and all takes care of the surgery costs. But what about the wage loss? And generally, these hospital expenses lead them to taking credit or wipe off their savings. At Lakshya, we observed that is ability to pay for these products an issue, or excess is the issue. So what we realized that these two are not a big issue for the segment that we are serving, which is earning 20,000 to 40,000 per month at the household level. What we realized that the two main challenges were trust and knowledge and experience, like how they can trust on formal financial products and how they can have the knowledge and experience. Till they are comfortable, they are comfortable with credit, but with savings and insurance, they would like to have some experience. So we did some tests where we provided product literacy to around 39,000 gig workers. So there our experience was that when we provided knowledge and training, but immediate product was not accessible, then it has not led to any usage of the products. Then when we bundle the solutions along with other platform providers, it definitely led to the enrollment, but it led to limited repeat usage. And plus people did not know how to use the products. So there were instances of bad attribution to the products, like insurance काम नहीं करता है, claim नहीं मिलता है, all these things because they were not aware ki how to use the products, what were the features. So then we did a third experiment where we extensively went to some of the clusters like weavers, artisans, farmers, where we provided them product literacy as well as gave them instant access of the product, which led to increased repeat usage where the people came next year for the renewal of the insurance. And in order to distribute these products, we tried out with few channels. First, we built an app. So with app, we tried to give them a very simple app with only few clicks, like just save, withdraw, see the balances. And that was our assumption, that we are giving out a very simple app to the people and people will use it, will love it. But what we realized that the segment that we are targeting, when it comes to financial products, they are not comfortable. They want someone to come physically and teach them even 3 clicks also. Because there's a constant fear कि कोई गलती ना हो जाए, पैसा कहीं और ना चला जाए. That was the fear. So then that led us to try phygital model, where some agent was going enrolling the people. So we realized there the commission is we can only offer products which has high margin commission products, or bundle too many products into a simple product and make it more complex. Then only phygital will succeed. Otherwise, for simple products like liquid mutual fund and all, this phygital approach was not working out. Then we tried WhatsApp. Our assumption there was that it is a known UI UX for them. People don't have to download any new app, and they would be more comfortable because now WhatsApp is there in everyone's smartphone. But what we realized that when we were working with women, they don't prefer WhatsApp for using for savings and insurance because they want the privacy. Because they usually have one smartphone or 2 smartphones at max in the house, and people have access to their phones. So at most, WhatsApp they preferred only for any kind of dissemination of information, like we gave them product literacy and or at most the enrollment. But continuous engagement was difficult for us on WhatsApp with them. Then some tech challenges which we faced in Lakshya. So our co-founders came from non-tech background. So for us, technology was a labyrinth or maze to understand. And in a social sector, it's very difficult to get a good CTO or someone at a senior position to guide you what technology to take, what would work, because the valuations are not that high for to get that kind of resources, and when you are starting. So what was the next best option for us? We went with a tech vendor. Now what happens that being a non-tech founder, assessing that tech vendor also is a task, like whether we have taken a correct vendor or not. And this is what happened with us. In our mind, we wanted to make a playhouse with swings, dollhouse, and a lot of things. And we thought that we will first start with the swing, which was our MVP product. Then we explained to the vendor. He told us that, okay, this could be the best possible solution in your budget. And this is what we got. Why? Because in his mind, he wanted to finish the MVP. And because there was no senior resource at the beginning to have a design thinking and design the architecture in an expandable manner, like, okay, when we want to add after swing slides or some more games, how that is feasible. And when we want to change the vendor now, it leads to significant resources. It's like building the entire technology from the scratch. And because we are dealing with financial products, so another challenge is, if the architecture is not agile enough, it is difficult to meet the tech requirements of also regulations which keep on changing. And even the new products is difficult to add in that. So for example, when we first built our MVP, eKYC was allowed for mutual funds. When our app got launched, suddenly one day the regulation came, Aadhaar cannot be used for mutual funds enrollment. So that's the challenges that we faced in Lakshya. And we are still looking for suitable technologies which we can use to provide affordable financial products to the target segment that we are dealing with, low income segment. Because what we also saw that nowadays a lot of fintechs are using games to get the continuous engagement with Gen Z urban. Maybe it is possible in Gen Z urban, but when we are talking about farmers or women working in factories, they might not connect with such kind of games which drive savings and insurance. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonal. And also thank you for sharing your learnings with respect to technology integration as part of Lakshya. So we would like to take some of these questions as part of the roundtable as well. So our next talk is by Aniket Deogar. Aniket is the CEO and co-founder of Haqdarshak, a social impact organization working on easing access to welfare schemes. So I'll request Aniket to present his work.
So hi everyone, it's great to be here. So Haqdarshak essentially is a social enterprise where we are working on getting people access to government schemes. Sorry. So we started in 2016, Jan. I started working on this idea about 10 years back. And essentially the idea is to ensure people get access to the eligibility information on different government schemes. To give a context, under the RBI circular, India has about 13,000 government schemes. Central and state combined, MSMEs, different languages. 900 million people in India are eligible for these government schemes. At any given point of time, if I ask the audience here, how many government schemes do you know? You probably will know the 5 which are right now under the Prime Minister's name. I don't think we would be able to name any other government scheme. And a typical Indian family is eligible for 55 government schemes and 30 government documents to get these schemes. So this is the navigation space that we are trying to solve. And the idea was that first and foremost, how do you get the information across? When I actually started Haqdarshak not as an enterprise, but as an idea to get into Stanford and Harvard, but just to build my CV. So idea was that let's build a Wikipedia platform. People will come in and get massive information, and that will be fantastic. And just like I think a lot of speakers have shared in this space, very early on as a 23, 24-year-old, I realized that people do not want to go to websites and apps if the information is something that, is not unless it is assisted tech. So the first step that we kind of started working on as a solution was building this simple AI-based engine, which when you put in your information tells you what government schemes are eligible for. The core IP that we have is not the tech, but is the government schemes that we have digitized and the knowledge that we have built. We have digitized 7,500 government schemes in 14 local languages. So that's the repository we built over the last 6-7 years. And it's a continuous thing. Karnataka is going for elections in February. Whoever wins, there will be a change in government schemes. But what also happens is there are no government schemes that get cancelled. In Madhya Pradesh or Uttar Pradesh, we still have Indira Gandhi Awas Yojana and Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. In Delhi, there is a scheme of 50 rupees for a clerk for King George's ink, providing ink. That's in Delhi, still running. There is a Hyderabad scheme which is under the Nizam, which is still under the budget. So we do not cancel government schemes because you have to understand government schemes are not designed by banks or bureaucrats. It's a political push, right? Political push by manifesto and agenda. And that's rightly, and that's how it gets derived. So every year, more and more government schemes get added. Of course, we are doing a fantastic job in now onboarding government schemes with all the Aadhaar stack and UPI stack and getting people access to benefit transfers. But we do not need 13,000 government schemes. We need probably a very effective, in a diverse country like ours, 500 to 600 government schemes. So the AI engine essentially tells you, once you put in your information, simply tells you what are the government schemes you're eligible for. It works without internet. That's the first step. The second, like I said, we realized is that assisted tech is what is required. I think like by now we know that this segment needs assisted tech, and again after the first couple of years we started piloting on the agent management side. So what we really, as you will see in this part that we really focused on the agent app. So we started building the agent management platform. We started focusing because we realized that apart from rather than going the citizen first side, we want to build a robust agent network, which can actually be as a parallel to how we have LIC agents, right? You need a lot of onboarding, providing agents, but what you really need is a very strong agent system, which is advising you on government schemes. A farmer can today in a state like Karnataka or in any agrarian state which has a large, the entire country has a majority agrarian population, can get access to 14 to 15 government scheme loans backed by different banks. It is not in any kind of right mind that anybody will advise a farmer to take 14 government scheme loans. So what you also need apart from information, documentation is also what kind of government schemes to apply for, what kind of life insurance, what kind of health insurance, what kind of pension. There are state pensions, national pensions. So that is what the agent network really does. And we have trained about 25,000 women entrepreneurs. Our main goal is to train women. And they then go out in the field, screen citizens, tell them end-to-end what are the government schemes they are eligible for. They charge a small fee to them. A small fee is paid by the partners that we have, corporate partners who do this for their employees and for their factory workers, construction workers, farmers, different segments. And largely this is on the B2B side, our agent side. Earlier this year, we've also launched our B2C side, which is our Yojana card, which we got approved by RBI. And this is kind of our one-stop solution for the citizens. So whether you have a domestic worker at home or a driver or all your gig economy workers, how do they get access to government schemes? How can they tap into it? So it's a simple QR code based card. It basically tells you your eligibility. We have got some licenses under the Umang app, which is run by the central government, to directly push some of the applications. And idea is that, like Sanjay was mentioning earlier, that through that QR code you can accept payments. So this becomes a very good tool for small micro businesses. Again, in India there are 60 million, 6 crore MSMEs, out of which 5.8 crores are micro and nano businesses. So how can they accept payments and also know what is Deogar, how do you get government schemes, how do you get government documents, and also becomes a very important tool for gig economy workers. We are still trying to solve how do they make payments through this card, but one of the options is to make it a fresh debit card and fresh UPI card. But this is something we are piloting right now. Goal is to issue 100,000 cards by March through some corporate partners. That is on track. So far, we've kind of dispersed over 5,000 crores worth of government benefits. This year alone, we will do another 5,000 crores and reach out to 15 lakh families. We are working, again, picking on what the earlier Sanjay was saying, the exclusion matrix. I think we acknowledge that today when government wants to launch a government scheme, let's take the example of PM Kisan, which is a 6,000 rupee benefit per year. There are 9.8 crore farmers registered under the government portal. Under the government's entire area of assessment, there are 14 crore farmers, because the problem in India is women farmers are not recognized yet, because they are also farmers and farm workers. Out of those 9.8 crore farmers, last payment was done for about 7 crore farmers. So 2.8 crore farmers didn't get the last installment. In our field work, what we have realized is that simple missing point is that somebody's changed their phone number so that it's not linked to Aadhaar. Your Aadhaar is not linked to PAN card. The new thing is Aadhaar has to be linked to voter ID. Your bank account has to be updated. Your caste certificate is not updated. Your income certificate is not updated. Somebody passed away in your family, your land rights are not passed on, or you've not got the death certificate or birth certificate registered. So all of these different challenges that come up, and they come up state-wise. The other challenge is central government can have fantastic programs. Government scheme delivery is a state subject. It's not a central subject. That is one of the reasons that Ayushman Bharat doesn't work in West Bengal. But there are other such different government scheme delivery challenges that come up. And this is the gap that we are trying to fulfill, that what is the exclusion matrix, and also get repeat government scheme social security delivery. The other thing that is there in social security is, by definition, social security covers social pensions, insurance. It's a Western Europe concept. India, along with Brazil, Indonesia, developing economies, give social security direct cash transfers because our livelihood is not at par. We do not have enough livelihoods for everyone. So that's the reason we do direct cash transfers. But on core social security benefits, the other challenge that local low-income families have is repeatability. I am put on a government pension, I'm put on a government insurance, but I also need to make regular monthly payments. I need to make that small contribution. We have seen a lot of people get onto government scheme benefits, but after that they drop off. So how do you ensure that doesn't happen? They continue to get benefits, they continue to get access to any grievance that they have in such programs. Right now, at this stage, we would say our first 6 years has been an MVP. We have reached about 25 lakh families. Like I said, by the end of March, we will cumulatively reach about 40 lakh families. Our goal is to reach 10 crore families in the next 5 years. And I think right now are some of the challenges very, as I would say, scale challenges in terms of now, like I think previous speaker was speaking, I think we also initially built the platform for a certain scale, and now re-architecture issues, kind of how to also keep adopting to what is happening in the ecosystem, continuous innovation. So basis that, and also now we are trying to see now, because we always were an impact first company, we are also trying to see the hundreds of millions of data points that we have, how do we intelligently utilize them and use them to build better solutions and narrow down our focus on some of these social security issues. So I think this is where the next phase of our focus is. Quickly, like right now, how do we make money, how do we sustain this? We have a B2B corporate partnership program. We work with about 100 corporates in India to work with their informal economy, formal economy, so probably a security guard in an office like this to a construction worker, factory worker. And this is, they pay us through service contracts to do these models. So our B2B model is self-sustainable. what we are right now trying to see is how do we go from reaching about 15-20 lakh families per year to about 2 crore, 3 crore families per year through our Yojana card and B2C models. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Aniket. As you were speaking, we could see that there are a lot of potential collaborations with respect to the existing work as well as collaborations that we have at MSR. So would love to take this conversation forward. Our next talk is by Manohar Swaminathan. Manohar is a senior principal researcher at Microsoft Research India. He is also founding co-convener of Center for Accessibility in Global South at the IIIT Bangalore. He has PhD in CS from Brown University and was professor at Indian Institute of Science and co-founded several organizations and startups before joining MSR. So he is currently leading the work on accessibility at MSR and really glad to hear from him.
Good morning, everybody. I should have used my influence with Tanuja to get the first slot because it's so intimidating to talk after all those 4 impactful talks that it looks like we are taking just baby steps. But here we go. Computational thinking for children with vision impairments in the Global South. It's a large team, both present and the past. Our goal is to bring computational thinking for children in schools for the blind in India and later on, hopefully, in the Global South. These are the major challenges that children who are blind face in India. They're basically invisible most of the time, but much better than other children with disabilities. But essentially, all of them get locked out of STEM education by the time they're grade 7. And we are afraid that if we don't do something, they will be locked out of computational thinking, computer careers, which are like what will get them away from their poverty and disability. Most schools, most children who are blind do not go to schools at all. And a small percentage who go to schools for the blind. There are very few children who actually go to so-called integrated schools, which is far away in the future. And these schools, most of them are run by non-profits, which are supported by government. And about 50% of the teachers are also themselves blind who came through the same system. That means beyond 7th, they don't have any science or math education. And there is limited resources in terms of teaching, everything else. And the problem is that we need to address it without thinking about what happens to adults who are blind. There are lots of people who are trying to train adults who are blind, but we believe we have to go at scale, starting from grade 1, 2, so that they are not left out again. So this is where we said we have to work with children and schools for the blind in children. So computational thinking, we are not starting from scratch. CS Pathshala, ACM for supported initiative, created a complete curriculum, but it's completely for visual learners. So we want to create a parallel curriculum which is for non-visual learners. 3 components: digital skills, foundational concepts, and programming concepts. Ludic design for accessibility, I won't spend much time. This is a methodology we created at MSR, which basically puts play and playfulness at the center of all accessibility work we do. Essentially, you create accessible games and play that by engaging in joyful play for extended periods of time, a designed-in skill is acquired by the players. So the play is central. The benefits are side effects. So all of us are happy in this project because we always play, and the cardinal rule is if even one of you is not enjoying the play, we all stop and change the rules. Okay? So we love it. And so do our children and our teachers. And we figured that there is a huge lack of basics in numeracy among children for blind for many, many reasons. For example, a blind child born blind has no ideas of obvious things like presence of a finger, absence, presence of objects, multiple objects. Basic things we sighted people acquire by the age 1 or 2, blind children do not have it. You suddenly don't throw them numbers and say count for 4, 4 plus 3. You don't get math, so we will put you away from math. So we want to focus on numeracy first. I won't go through this. Essentially, we are looking at foundational skills that every child around the world learns as numeracy foundations. We have created a 2D matrix of all the skills, which grade traditionally people learn. And we create, these are the learning areas. Let me skip. We look at games that we can make accessible to the children. Look at each game and figure out what are the key skills that these games offer to the child. So we complete this matrix for each game. I'll take an example of Rummy. I'm sure most of you play it, except of course in your family they said, oh, Rummy is stepping into the slippery slope of gambling, but it's a beautiful game. This gives you skills all the way from counting to strategy to looking at opponents, whether they are doing well, etc. Right? So this has all of these numeracy skills built in. So essentially, if I can play with a child, rummy, I can, if the child beats me hollow, I know all of the skills have been mastered by the child. I don't need exams, I don't need tests. Okay? So this is the basic goal. Of course, we are working with Vision Empower Trust. We have Sylvia, who is a director of Vision Empower. We have Amit Prakash, who is a co-founder of Vision Empower right here. And because of their efforts, it's a beautiful team, committed team. Over the years from 1920 to 22-23, we are now in about 12 states. At the end of the year, 100 schools, about 1,000 teachers. We go with the teachers first, and then they take it to the children. And the idea is that what they have done so far is take about 40-50 games for numeracy that we have created. We have created play plans, and we are transferring this to all of these schools with strong support from the government. So we work with Department of Social Justice or Education, get permission from the ministry to deploy these in the schools for the blind. What we are now starting to do is the next step of digital skilling. This is a very new project, about 2 months old. It's called Scalable Educational Experiences with Digital Scaffolding. 3 components. One is an Android app for the teacher, through which the teacher can gather students who all use our feature phone. We believe feature phones have miles to go in terms of utility. For a blind child, feature phones are way easier than a standard touchscreen phone. We are all stuck by the glamour of touchscreen phones, but it's very hard for a blind child with no support at home to pick up usage of smartphone. But with the tangibility of keyboards, they picked up in our pilot. 10 minutes is all it took them to unlock lock phones, teach others how to unlock lock, receive a call, end a call. That's all we need in this system where they engage through content. The teacher collects a few students. There's an IVR system in the background with content of experiences that are played out to these children, and they all interact with it. Or in the leisure time, they can pull content from wherever the residential things are. And the third component is a Braille reader, which was again developed by Wemby Technologies, a startup incubated at IIIT Bangalore. Very low cost, reading in Braille, which is extremely important for a blind child. Literacy in Braille is critical. Just because technology is there, we can't get it out. So we are building these 3 together, funded by Microsoft Outreach. And the earlier project with Vision Empower was funded by Microsoft Philanthropy for the last 4 years. So what I want to, so this one is very exciting. By March, this is funded by Microsoft Outreach. We want to go to 200 children with about 20-30 teachers to see how these experiences pan out. And then hopefully scale to 1 feature phone owned by child across all the blind children in the country, which is like somewhere there, but we hope to get there at some point. I will not go through this right now. This is very important that I want to leave you with, that any of this large scale, very slow in our mind, we have been working, we think we work very hard. It's been very, very slow in terms of the reach. We just dipped our toes in the deep lake so far, right? But even that requires all these organizations to work together. Academic partners, Center for Accessibility in the Global South, Assistek IIT Delhi, Wemby Technologies, Tushe Tech, Raceline Foundation, Vision Empower, Shaksham, so on and so forth. Okay, so we hope to scale this up, and happy to talk more after the break and so on. Okay, and I'm just talking about this one project which has been around for 4 years. There are other projects in accessibility, print accessibility, etc. by Last Psychath. We also work with deaf and hard of hearing population, but this is the most mature, and that's why I thought I'll present it here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Manohar. So our next talk is by Ronak Sutaria. Ronak is the founder and CEO of Mumbai-based startup called Respirer Living Sciences. Ronak, so this startup is primarily, as Sriram mentioned earlier, looking into air pollution monitoring and also collaboration with MSR for a long time. So I would request Ronak to present his work.
So thank you very much for having me here. Like Tanuja and Satish have said, we've been engaged with MSR since 2016. Actually, the first visit I remember when we were a small office in Bombay, Satish and a colleague of his had come over. Of course, the work has remained in a similar domain, but it's still continuing from where those discussions had started. I actually wanted to start with a question today to all of you, or some of you can answer. Which city did you all grow up in? If somebody will care to answer, maybe Sriram. You grew up in Chennai. Anybody else? Bangalore, Delhi. Guwahati. Excellent. I think everybody, of course, has grown up in a city or a town. We associate ourselves with the city where we grew up in. Primarily what constitutes a city? There are some shared experiences you guys had with people who were in that city. It could be the food, it could be the language, it's the culture. I'm going to say that, the quality of the air could be one of those characteristics. A city actually has a boundary. All of us, of course, say that, we are from a city and somebody else outside the boundary is not from that city. The government right now in India, and this is a concept that is actually persisting in many Western countries, is redefining boundaries, especially when it comes to pollution. There are boundaries being created across the atmosphere to at least regulate pollution. I mean, that's kind of the domain we work in. So I'm going to talk about a little bit of that. And, so essentially, like I was introduced, I run a company called Respirer Living Sciences. It's been around since 2017 as a company, but 2015 as a project. So the first 2 years were in a nonprofits domain. We've got a few awards in the startup space. It's a NASSCOM Emerge 50 award. In MIT, we've been selected in the ministry. I would definitely like to acknowledge the Microsoft research support we've been getting. Startups, some of you are running them. It's a very lonely journey. And when a large organization gets behind you, it brings in, funds is probably a small contribution. I mean, they definitely help. But it's the support, the credibility that comes with somebody bigger backing. So, I have to click on things. Sorry. Air pollution, why is it an issue? I mean, of course, the term has been used, but is it a serious enough issue to really do a deep dive in? From a health perspective, it's similar to smoking cigarettes. Some of you may be, some of you may not be smoking cigarettes, but you all breathe the air, and you all are living in Bangalore. I can tell you there is a whole bunch of cigarettes you all are smoking when you're out on the road. The main constituent of the pollutant is PM 2.5, which is carcinogenic. It's a cancerous substance which goes deep in the lungs. In terms of size, it's about a 30th the size of a human hair. So that's kind of the physical scale that we are working with in measurements. It's really tiny. And of course, there are invisible pollutants we track. Coming to the actual governance and monitoring aspects. So essentially, we are an IoT big data company. We are a climate sciences company. What's happening on the ground? So today's essential focus is on what's really the layout of the space in the country. So the government in 2019 created a large program. They put aside about 4,400 crores to focus on this topic. And there have been cities which have been identified, 132 cities which were identified based on their past air pollution data, primarily around their PM 2.5 and PM 10 levels, were identified to be known as non-attainment cities. And that's really the space that we work in, because we are kind of plugged into some of this. We have a reasonably deep collaboration with this NCAP program. There is a center of excellence. So a lot of this work, while technology is at the core of it, credibility becomes a key factor, because at the end of the day, you're measuring something which is extremely tiny. You're measuring gas concentrations. The PSA, the Office of Principal Scientific Advisor, has put together a center of excellence. It's been commissioned at IIT Kanpur. There are 2 industry partners across the country. We are one of them. And there are 3 specific focus areas that have been identified by the government where they're going to. Of course, there's a lot of other work that goes on, but primarily the backing and the recognition right now is happening for 3 focus areas, which is one is to deploy low-cost air quality networks across India. The government network, costs about 1.5 crore for per monitoring site. We are trying to bring that cost down to about 1.5 lakh to 2 lakhs per monitoring site. India needs monitoring in 8,000 cities, towns, and rural blocks. The second is, of course, the entire sensor hardware, and I'm going to talk about the work we're doing a deep dive with MSR in their fault detection space. And then the whole data ecosystem that is getting built around this. So there is going to be a lot of work that the policymakers use in this. There is, citizen science work going on. There's a lot of employment that's getting generated from this. And finally, there is a Blue Sky project going on where they're going to start building sensors. So all 3 legs have been commissioned earlier this year. primarily, what is it that we are solving in this whole complex space? We are essentially monitoring takes up about half or 50% of our efforts and work. As I said, the government monitoring sites, there are about 300 of these, about 350 now actually, across the country, which provides credible data. Each of them costs about $1.5 crore. And each city in India requires about between 50 to 100 monitoring sites, the 132 cities we are talking of. And these, because they've been identified, they had past data. Of course, there are a lot more cities which need data. And as I said, the first 5 years we spent in fine-tuning our device and monitoring work. The most recent project which has got commissioned, it's a project in collaboration with IIT Kanpur and the state governments in UP and Bihar. It's a $2.5 million project commissioned by the two states. IIT Kanpur is the executing partner and we are the industry partner in providing the equipment. So the devices, as we speak, are getting built. 1,000 of these will get shipped out before December. A part of it is going to use the MSR technology in it. What's the nationwide market size? So, I mean, we are a startup, so we have to look at some of these kind of numbers. Just the monitoring side, the PM monitoring is about 1,350 crores. We have about 3 to 4% market share in the PM market size, but the end-to-end monitoring is a 4,000 crore market space. This is some of the validation. I'm going to very quickly pass through these things. But essentially, there's a study done here in Bangalore by C-Step. Google supported it, where all of the main players were invited. And ours actually has got ranked at number 2 in this. There was a US company called TSI, which is a very old 35-year-old player, which had a similar device as us. MPCBs evaluated our device closely. So over here, I mean, the key point here is, I don't know if there's a marker here, but if you focus on these numbers, this is the the CAQMS which the government buys, and the median numbers, if you see, and the median numbers from the sensors, when you look at these data points, for all practical purpose, you can do a lot of very valid pollution studies from about 1/10 the cost of what the government is currently focusing on. There's another study which was done in South Africa. This is a top institute, SCAI, NWU, which is doing regulatory work for the government in South Africa. They evaluated our device and put out a report in the public domain. It's pretty much, these numbers are not really visible, but essentially the correlations have all come about 0.9, which shows that this is a very valid one. Now, at the core of all of this, I've jumped a lot of calibration work we do, but at the heart of it is accurate data. The fundamental work requires you to not have failed sensors in the field. MSR has published a bunch of papers, but primarily they've enabled a way to identify sensors which are going bad and which are drifting, because sensors performance drifts over time and it starts reporting data which may not be the most accurate. So this is already been built into our board. But Akshay's team primarily helped us in integrating this into our system right now. So the 1,400 devices which are deploying are going to be putting this out. Coming back to the field deployments, regulatory work, government notifications are already out. There has been a lot of back and forth and a pushback from the government in using this technology, because this takes away, monitoring takes away a source of, putting out very large tenders. So typically tenders used to be about 10 crores each. Now, these were the regulatory tenders. Now suddenly the tender sizes are going to be like 1 crore. So, that leaves very little margin for the people who push tenders out. But long story short, there is, these are all notifications that come out in October of this year, which is this month, to start using low-cost sensors in regulatory work at construction sites. And just in the city of Gurgaon in Haryana, in the NCR region, there are 3,000 construction sites which are going to be deploying this kind of technology. So another work we've done is, we had a dashboard for continuous air quality monitoring. This actually has been built on Power BI. It was very rapidly built. We have a data stream of the 350 locations from the 132 cities. We put together a dashboard. We got very good support and coverage actually from Microsoft, both the global Microsoft, Chris being the EVP of the parent organization. Interestingly, now we have some support coming in to open source the data sets And there's going to be a hackathon running in 10 cities where APIs for this entire thing, because ultimately there were 4 people building this dashboard at our end. We want to open it up to about 130 cities. So a hackathon is being looked at where analytics can be built. Our nationwide footprint currently is, in a whole bunch of cities. These are all government regulatory-backed projects. Most of them are being done with IITK again. But this is kind of our theory of change at the bottom, is we deploy sensor technology, we increase the spatial and temporal coverage, identifying hotspots, assisting in creation of airsheds. Ultimately, the goal is to have better health. This is being used in drones. This is emissions monitoring work we do in methane side. A lot of the AQ work now is coupled with all the notifications require noise to be monitored along with air. Again, coming back to airshed, which is what the original question I started with, there is a lot of computational work involved in this, and that's where we are going to be reaching out to Microsoft for. So essentially, we are positioning ourselves as the traffic data provider, what you have when you look at Google Maps and look for traffic. We want to be for pollution and emissions. So when you want to rent your next home, you would get the accurate data at a street level. Microsoft Research actually has a large climate research initiative where they are doing a whole bunch of climate modeling work, which overlaps with a bunch of things that we do. So we would like to deep dive into this with some of the people over here. And that's pretty much it from our end. I mean, we want to collaborate on a whole bunch of things. We are, but yeah, if anybody is interested in any of these topics, including helping us with startup support in terms of traction and other things, but there are a lot of technical things to work on, then we're most happy to engage. That's all from my end.
Thank you, Ronak. So we are at the last talk of this particular session today. So our last talk is by Raju. He has been bridging the innovation and societal impact for over 2 decades and is currently building the national initiatives in digital public goods and health system design. He is president at Art Park, AI and Robotics Technology Park at IISc, and fellow at Lancet Citizens Commission on reimagining India's health system. So looking forward to hear from you.
This sounded a little more catchy. I'll give a little bit of background. Okay, so let's see. All right. About Art Park. Art Park is a Section 8 nonprofit promoted by IISc. It's actually a brainchild of Department of Science and Technology and Government of Karnataka. And our mandate is to build for-profit and non-profit deep tech ventures at the intersection of ecosystems, right? And I'll talk a little bit about why and all that. But today, mostly I'll draw on last 13 years of experience, especially since when I started calling myself a social entrepreneur, right? So my journey has been one of actually building narrow product portfolios. One of the most shaping experience for me was building Embrace. It was an infant warmer that worked without power, and anyone could use it, with basically no or minimal training. Scaled it from first users to now maybe about 1 million vulnerable babies around the world. But yeah, lots of lashes and gashes there. So some experiences from that. That then led me to ask, how do we work closely with this scaled systems in building technology, as opposed to being an innovator who then says, I built this wonderful thing, oh, no one wants to scale it, right? Hi, Nishan. Yeah. So I had launched Lakshya between some of these things. They are wondering, why doesn't NVU show up, right? Done many things, I guess. So in Vadhvani AI, I was one of the co-founders there, along with Anandan, former director here. And there, my role was that of figuring out what problems do we go after, what solutions do we build in partnership with scaled systems, and building cross-functional teams to do that in an iterative manner, right? At some point, I started realizing instead of doing one problem at a time, you need ecosystems. There are lots of horizontal stuff that needs to happen that doesn't actually get done, right? And even after creating things like the AI for TB program with the WHO and Ministry of Health, I realized that for the most part, narrow solutions, unfortunately, are like seeds in a desert. They don't scale. So you got to work in fertilizing at least the top layer of the desert. Right? So I'll talk about some of the behaviors or challenges in the ecosystem. And I should say that I have a big sampling bias here, largely global health and public health, and low-cost private space. Right? And this is also things I wish, looking back, I mean, remember Embrace was 2010 to 16 timeframe. Vadhvani AI was late 2017 to 21. 5 years at Embrace and 4 years at Vadhvani AI especially informed a lot of this thinking, right? First thing is, one of the biggest challenges is that as social entrepreneurs, we don't often ask, what are truly our impact and money trade-offs, right? This will show up in many ways. You'll be pushed to a higher income segment. You will be pushed to, you always have, you always are trying to reach impact sooner, so you might accumulate different types of debt, right? That your funders might not want. The other thing is often we forget about how do these solutions really fit into the system, right? And deliver the impact or results that folks want. Sometimes it's a distributor money. I just heard my previous speaker talk about tenders going away. That's going to make someone unhappy, right? So there is these results with stake. So you have, broadly you have beneficiaries, users, choosers, and payers in the system. In a B2C, all this is same. That's the best of all worlds, right? But when you are often talking about underserved communities, these are all different, and multiple people may be playing these roles, right? Getting this all aligned, as much as you may be user-focused, getting this all, I am sure there are lots of lessons at Everwell this way, right? This is a big challenge, right? Now, the system owners themselves, fundamentally, Microsofts and Googles of the world they don't ask what's ready today, let me adopt it, right? You are saying, what does the world look like some years from now, and what's the arc of technology? What are my strategic and business goals? And hence, how do we invest in technology? This vision doesn't exist when you're looking at mostly government and public systems, right? And that is a challenge, because then if you don't have that kind of vision, how do you convince someone they should invest in something, right? And the other things are, corollaries or corollaries to that. Key thing to call out this last bit, right? There isn't often enough money to bring in innovations. Control, right? Because even you're going at state level, center can't do much at state level, but state will still send file back to the center for approvals. All these sort of things will happen, right? And of course, market share if you come to the private side, right? Hugely fragmented. And one of the kind of eye-opening experiences for me is that funders and incubators are often unable to bridge this gap, right? And this is also partly trying to be reflective, right? When we get into hugely inspiring talks today, I do not want to discourage anyone, right? I continue to be foolish and going after bigger and hopefully more impactful things, right? But it's important to remember this in the room, that as much as we do challenges and awards, etc., systems buy-in often is poor. And trying to create the systems buy-in early is important, right? There isn't enough systems thinking and very vertical focused. So if you go and say, I want to build, platform for health data, or folks like, Sanjay Jain, he just talked to UPI, etc. How many philanthropists funded it right out of the bat, right? It took a philanthropist to actually do it, right? To actually get started on those sort of things. And the nonprofits often themselves, right? They do not have the technology background, right? And there are lots of implementing organizations that will do pilots. And again, not enough systems thinking. I've been disappointed by the fact that not enough design thinking happens, right? You may have very fancy AI, but UI, you mentioned UI, right? If you break down at that level, no fancy AI is going to help you for other things that have to happen on that app, So you also mentioned UI, right? And there are plenty of vanity metrics, right? Plenty of vanity metrics. So just beware. So what are we doing? We are actually investing time and money in actually building a shared understanding of what the future of health systems looks like. We are doing this through the Lancet Commission for Reimagining India's Health System. And through this, we are hoping to build action collaborations with system owners, industry, and researchers, right? And I'll share just a couple of them very quickly. So everyone knows this, technology is changing, environment is changing. And in the Lancet Commission, we also laid out certain paradigm shifts that need to happen. I won't go through in details. I'll share this paper, etc. This has been now published, right? And the Lancet Commission deliberations are continuing. Right? So there's, how do we really look at technology from 2030, right? And we also started doing this interesting effort of actually creating vignettes from 2030. You write lots of vision papers. Who reads vision papers? Right? Did you just raise your hand? Yeah, so unfortunately, the decision makers don't, right? They don't read these vision papers. It's not what sells, right? So I introduced this concept of actually citizen-centered journeys and asked and said, let's work backwards and say, let's define, right? How is the world going to be different because of the sort of things we do, right? And I'll quickly walk you through it, one of them, actually half of it, and I'll wrap up my talk. 2030, somewhere in rural India, let's say Shanti wakes up, grabs her phone, launches Sahayak. Sahayak asks her, hopefully in the language that she speaks, how she's feeling, right? And she says, okay, mujhe khasi hai, and hopefully Sahayak will understand that, right? Asks her a few more questions, and then an AI screening engine. I mean, we are talking 2030, so maybe COVID-29 then, right? Some of you are cringing, right? Remember, TB lives on, right? It's been a long time since we discovered TB, right? So, so the urgency score, fortunately, is low, but still 2 notifiable diseases. So she needs a doctor consultation, and thanks to revision in PMJ, remember it's 2030, it's not just your operation that's covered, but also the sort of primary health checkups, right? And thanks to good work done through ABDM, right, the Unified Health Interface is actually operational, so she gets a doctor's appointment because just like you and me, her kids need to be somewhere, husband needs to be somewhere, she can't just uproot and go to the health and wellness center that may be a couple of kilometers away, right? So the point of this, and then of course, I'll just click through, right? Some of our phones do this already. It's a useful question to ask, why doesn't this technology already exist in the hands of ASHA workers, etc., right? And DigiLocker, it's unlocked and all that, right? Now, these sort of things we found not so much that this is actually the right structure of the health system. What these have turned out to be have been an incredible way of bringing together concrete feedback, constructive feedback on how this story should be different, right? There are even stories where there's no doctor, a health worker provides a lot more comprehensive care, right? So couple of things we are doing ourselves. You saw examples about, both health and language applications there using AI. We are working with ICMR to build a technology-enabled hubs and spokes model, pan-India, all key medical institutions, with an overarching philosophy of designing technology, ownership of the effort, right, and the institutional structure in an anti-obsolescent way, right? Happy to talk what this means. Things like federated learning, confidential compute play right into it, right? If you actually want to make it happen, right? Microservices architecture is what we are hoping to build. Still early days. Happy to talk to. We'll have to work with industry and lots of partners to make this happen, right? But this thinking, remember, doesn't. If you go to talk to doctors, hi Zainul, talk to doctors in lots of faces I'm recognizing in the room, right? If you go talk to doctors at ICMR, they're not thinking this way. They see data sets, right? I want clean water, they don't think about the, the all pipelines that have to come together and, the cleaning mechanism that has to happen and all that, right? This is where technologists come in, and that's why it's powerful if, organizations that have the mandate to solve these challenges can work with technologists, right? Also, we're also building large open source data sets. Again, happy to chat, of course. So with that, I'll wrap up. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Raghu, for sharing your experiences and learnings as part of both Vadhwani and your current work. So with this, we are concluding the current session. I would like to thank again all the speakers for sharing their passionate work as well as learnings, which we would like to look at how the ecosystem can work together to address some of these challenges.